Hi, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited that you've chosen to do this with me. I am going to go through the basics or the fundamentals of yoga for the next 21 days and we'll practice. This is for anyone who doesn't necessarily want to go to a gym. Maybe you don't have time and it's easier for you to practice in your home, or maybe it feels intimidating to go to a yoga studio to learn, but you've always wanted to try. So you can do this on your own time, at your own pace, and just practice a little bit at a time. We're going to go through 3 moves today. We're going to go through mountain pose, a forward fold, and a downward dog. So that'll be your homework, is to try to practice these moves, and at the end of the week we're going to put them all together into a series. So here we go. So for mountain pose, a lot of instructors will tell you that you're going to ground down into your feet. What does that mean? It just means you're really going to feel the earth with your feet. Mountain is exactly what it sounds like. You're standing strong and tall like a mountain. But usually they will tell you to really feel your toes, have them flat on the mat. For me, I always say to feel the earth behind your big toe, behind your baby toe, and at your heel. And when we go into mountain, sometimes you want to lift your toes. I always end up lifting my fingers too, and then claw the mat. You're going to want to make sure that you feel nice and stable in your hips, and you're going to have a slight micro bend in your knees. So what does that mean? It means you're not going to really sit into your knees like this, but you also don't want to hyperextend. That is not good for your knees. So you just want to take your knees to a nice neutral position and then give them a slight bend, almost undetectable. I always like to have my hips kind of tilted forward just a little bit, like nothing drastic, but you do want to make sure that you're not swaying back either. So really nice and sturdy and strong and square in the hips. Your hands are usually facing forward with an open palm. I've just naturally found that really spreading my fingers apart is a nice, comfortable way for me to start this, and it gives me a nice stretch. They'll also say to press your shoulders back and down. So you're going back and then down. So it gives you kind of almost a stretch already in your shoulder area. So instead of your shoulders being up around your ears, where they sometimes are when we're working all day and they creep up and up and up, you want to take them and really consciously press them down and back. So your chest might come forward just a little bit. Your chin should be tucked. I will say it often in my classes, like you're trying to hold something there. You don't want your chin sticking out, and you don't want it really, really in too tight. So you need a little bit of space, but tucked in. And they will often say your crown is facing up. So your crown is where you would wear your crown. We'll give ourselves a crown here, and then we'll shine it up to the sky. So shining up just means that you're standing up really nice and tall and trying to get that energy moving upwards. Okay, so we've got shoulders backing down, we've got the crown. Often in a class, we will close our eyes. When you're first beginning, that's a little tough because you don't necessarily know what the cues are, so you're probably going to want to keep your eyes open, or you can find yourself a spot on the ground and just have a half gaze. So mountain pose is just that. We're standing nice and strong, feeling stable, and this is where we'll start to breathe, which we won't go over today. Just gonna practice this. How easy is that? So when someone says we're gonna go into mountain pose, this is all they're talking about. Okay, so from here, we're going to try also a forward fold. And that's a big part of a lot of yoga series. We usually start that at the top of our mat. You can see the sun is creeping in on me here. So we're gonna face the short edge of our mat. Again, those knees have a slight micro bend and the hips are tucked under. Usually when we start a forward fold, we give a slight bend of the knee, and as we do that, we're going to inhale as we move up. Okay, so normally in yoga, anytime you move anything up, you're inhaling, and anytime you move down, it's an exhale. So for a forward fold, we're going to take our slight knee bend. We're going to inhale our arms up and overhead, nice and slow. And then as we exhale, the hands come down, all the way down to the mat if you can. Now here's where you have options. As the hands come down, you can have them land on your thigh if you like, and you can stay right there. Or if you like, you can have them come down to your shin, a little farther down if you like. But an instructor will normally invite you to come all the way down to the mat. Now, if you're here and your hands are dangling and you're not touching the mat, what you can do is bend your knees until your hands can either be just like on your fingertips or flat on the mat. And then often we'll just drop our heads and have them between our hands. And then you want to work at straightening those legs. Again, we don't want to hyperextend the knees. We always want that slight micro bend, but we're going to keep them still as straight as we can, get that nice stretch in the back of our legs. So hands are on the mat, head is dangling in between. And then sometimes we get really fancy and we're going to clasp opposite hand to opposite elbow, and that will generally let us fall forward just a little bit more. Okay, so we let the hands go. Now remember what I said, anytime we move up, we're inhaling. So we're giving those knees a slight micro bend, and we're gonna inhale, arms up and overhead. Now this will start a lot of series in yoga, the forward fold, okay? So we're gonna do that one more time. So forward fold, knees bend a little, inhale up. We're gonna fall forward. And then often what will happen here is the teacher or the instructor will say, we're going to do a half lift. And what we try to do is get our body in the shape of an L, so the neck goes long, and hopefully we have a little bit of an L shape, or as close to as we can get. So our halfway lift is just that. We've done our forward fold. Now our instructor has said half lift, so we lift up halfway. You can have your hands on your thighs here again too, whatever halfway means for you. It's really important in yoga to do this the way that is comfortable for you. You may have found yourself at some point in a class where something was happening for you that wasn't comfortable in your body, and the thing that is really important about yoga is it's yoga your way. So that's why we're doing this. There's all these options. Make sure you take the one that works for you, okay? So again, forward fold, I'm gonna inhale, hands up and overhead, all the way down, halfway lift, and then we're gonna have our hands flat on the mat, and from here I'm going to move into a downward dog. Now, often you'll see people jump back into a downward dog, but the best thing to do when you're first starting out is have one leg come back and then the other leg. So now I'm in a plank position. And what a plank is just you're on your hands and your toes and trying to make a straight line with the rest of your body, okay? We don't want our bums too high up in the air, or we don't want to be kind of hyperextending our back either. So as close to straight as you can. And when you push into a downward dog, your sits bones, which is just here, your sits bones are going to point up to the sky. So what that means is just you're going to put yourself in kind of a V position, and you're going to point here up to the sky. Your hands should be as flat as you can on the mat. So what'll happen often when you're first starting is those knuckles don't really want to be flat. You're going to want to splay your hands out like that. Nice stable base. And you want to try to push your fingers right down into the mat. So now my sits bones are pointing up to the sky. Where does my head go? My head is going to go as close to in between my arms as possible. And what you don't want to do is kind of shrink into your shoulders. You want your shoulders to stay nice and strong and your head in between your arms. What are my feet doing? So when you first are in this position, the backs of your legs or maybe your ankles probably quite tight. So what we'll often do is we'll say pedal the feet. And what that means is just like you're pedaling a bike, we're going to push one foot down and have the other foot come up. And then we pedal again and we just switch that. So then we just do that again until, now when you first start doing a downward dog, you're probably not going to be able to push your feet all the way to the mat, and that's okay.
Wherever they go for you is where they go. So what we can also do is lift them up and then push them down. So you want to try to tilt your bottom so that it's pointing up to the sky. Hands are strong, arms in between, or sorry, your head is in between your arms. Those feet are reaching for the mat, nice and stable. And then to come out of this, we'll just do it the same way that we went in. We'll look up between our hands, kind of backwards, lift that left leg forward and then the right leg forward, and we're going to be moving up. So inhaling all the way up and then down, okay? So what I think we'll do, so we're just gonna put it all together. You can practice this, and then tomorrow we'll build onto it. End of the week, we'll put all of the moves together and make a sequence out of it, okay? So mountain pose, everyone in mountain, stable base, in behind your big toe, in behind your baby toe, at your heel, lift your toes, claw the mat. This will all be very natural for you after you've done it for a while. Slight micro bend in the knees. We're tilting the pelvis ever so slightly forward. Shoulders are pressed down and back. Hands are shining forward. Smiling if you choose, that's optional. Crown is lifted, shining up to the sky. Either eyes closed or half gaze on the floor. And now we're gonna go into a forward fold. So we'll say step to the top of your mat, which is the short edge. And as we do that, we're going to deep knee bend, arms up and overhead. Inhale. Exhale down. Halfway lift. Down to the mat again. Bend your knees if you want to flatten your feet. Step one leg back and the other. You will normally be told which to do first. We're in plank. And then we're gonna push our sits bones or our bottoms up to the sky, and your head is coming in between your arms. Your hands are as flat as you can make them, and feet are pressing down to the mat or slightly lifted. And we should feel a really great stretch here pretty much all over. This is strengthening your body and stretching it at the same time. We're gonna look up between the hands. We're gonna step forward, whichever leg you choose first, and then forward with the other. We're back in a forward fold. And we're gonna inhale, arms up and overhead. Exhale down, and then come back to mountain. And that's it, we're all done. So your homework is to practice those three, and I will see you tomorrow with 3, 4, 3, probably more. Till next time.